You were right. You saw it coming. You said something about it, maybe out loud, maybe just to yourself, and nobody believed you. And then it happened exactly the way you thought it would. And instead of getting credit for seeing it first, you got called negative or anxious or overthinking or too much. I need you to hear something today. And I don't think anyone has ever said it to you directly. This is not overthinking. That is ADHD pattern recognition. And it is one of the most powerful skills in the room. I'm Alyece Smith. This is the ADHD CEO podcast, episode 212. Let's get into it.
Yo. Yes. Yo, it's Alyece, say it right, no cap. ADHD CEO, yeah, we run this track. Systems that slap, brains built different. We make sales in our sleep, yeah, the hustle's efficient. This ain't fluff, nah, this is strategy raw for the ADHD. Minds breaking every law. Hit subscribe, don't miss a single show. We're running on dopamine, let's go. Let's go.
Before we go anywhere, I want to be really clear about what exactly we are talking about today. Because when I say pattern recognition, I don't mean the kind of thing people post about on Instagram with like a quote graphic and a pretty sunset and it's perfect and it's polished, okay? I mean the real, lived, exhausting, and often isolating experience of being the person in the room who already knows how something is going to end. And having to watch it play out anyway, because nobody else is ready to hear it. The person who kind of walks into maybe a business deal and feels something is off before there's even a single number on the table. Or the person who notices the shift in the room in someone's energy before they even say a word. Or the person who said, I don't think this is going to work, and got told they were being negative. And then 6 months later, had to sit in a meeting where everyone else was like, yeah, it didn't work out. That experience, that like very specific exhaustion is what this episode is about. And if you've ever felt it, I want you to know you weren't wrong. You were early. So I want to describe something and I want you to send me a DM if this has ever happened to you, because I think sometimes just hearing other people's experience can just not only make you feel validated, but more confident in your abilities and your specific situations. So you're in a conversation. Let's just say it's, a business partnership, a collaboration, something like that. A team meeting if you still work in corporate, or a team meeting if you don't work for yourself, or even a relationship. And something shifts. You can't point to a single thing, but you notice it. Just this like gut feeling of like, oof, something is wrong. Maybe there's a slight change in tone or a word that's different this time. But a pattern that like doesn't match the last 10 times you've been in this situation. And your brain kind of starts connecting those dots like really fast, faster than you can even explain it to someone. And so when you try to say something, when you try to voice what you're seeing, it comes out as a feeling more than a fact or an opinion, right? I just have a bad feeling about this. Something feels off, or I don't think we should trust this person. And then people around you look at you like you're being irrational or dramatic. And it's funny, I talk about this quite a few times in my book, Flow First Thinking, because I feel like this was so much of my experience as a child, and it got me labeled as, being difficult or being dramatic or challenging authority. And it was really just because people didn't see what I saw yet. No, I'm not, psychic, but I just had this really strong internal direction. And so other people are still on dot 3 and you're already on dot 14. And the gap between where you are and where they are gets labeled as anxiety or pessimism or being too sensitive. And what's actually happening is that ADHD brains process information differently. We know that. Not slower, not worse, differently. And so when we take in more input, we notice micro signals that other people's brain kind of filters out. And we're really good at cross-referencing those signals against every other pattern that we've stored. We do this unconsciously, we do this constantly, and we do it fast. And that feeling that you have, it's not a feeling, even though you struggle to express it. It's data that your brain has collected faster than your mouth can explain. The problem is not the pattern recognition. If anything, that's a gift. The problem is the gap between what your brain already knows and what other people in the room are ready to hear. And I don't consider myself overly optimistic. I do try to always find the positive, but I am very good at finding the gaps and playing devil's advocate because of this pattern recognition. And so to other people, they don't want to hear the problems. And so when you live in that gap, you are right, or when you are right about things over and over, nobody believes you until it's too late. You start to do one of either two things. You stop saying what you see, you start kind of holding it in, and then you start losing confidence in yourself because you didn't vocalize your concerns. You start doubting yourself, or you say it louder, and that gets perceived as being negative or a problem. And neither of those are the answer. And the part that really stings about all of this is because this skill gets mislabeled as negativity because people associate seeing what could go wrong with being pessimistic. A lot of ADHD professionals actually start to believe that about themselves. And this is when you start apologizing for your gut, or you start second guessing what you saw, or you start deferring to the slower read in the room. And the thing that you predict would happen, you sit there with this very specific grief of being right about something nobody let you prevent. That's not anxiety, okay? That is the cost of people not recognizing your gift. And so if you've ever listened to any of my podcast episodes, I like them to be super tactical, right? I want you to understand this gift that you have and then how to put this in place in your life. Because when people around you start to trust your pattern recognition, you can use this gift. You'll stop apologizing. You'll become more confident in your decision making. And so what I want you to understand about this is the skill here is the exact thing that got you called overthinking or negative or too sensitive most of your life. And it's one of the most valuable things that you can bring into any room, into any team. In business, it means you can read a client before they tell you they're unhappy, or you can see a market shift before it trends. You can feel when a partnership is off before a contract falls apart, or you can identify what's not working in a team before it becomes an actual problem. And the leaders who change industries, the entrepreneurs and the professionals who seem to predict the market are often people doing exactly what you do well. They just have a language for it. They have rooms that respect it. They have environments where pattern recognition gets treated as intelligence instead of anxiety. And you don't have a thinking problem, okay? You have a translation problem. The skill is real. The data is real. What's missing is the framework for communicating it in a way that lands before the moment passes. And so here are 3 things I want you to take from this episode. 1, I want you to start calling it what it is. Okay? Next time this happens to you, don't say, I just have a bad feeling. I want you to start saying, I'm noticing a pattern. That one language shift changes how you are received by other people. And more importantly, it changes how you receive yourself. I have a bad feeling sounds like you're being emotional. I'm noticing a pattern sounds like data. You're not being reactive. You are reporting on what you're observing, and you're saying it in a way that other people will respect. The second thing, I want you to document what you see before you say anything about it. So especially if this is in a job that you work, right? A lot of time your boss or leaders that you might have to bring this to attention for don't want, depending on what level you are in the organization, they might not want you to bring problems to them. Right? They just want you to solve them. But if you document it, it makes it easier for you to explain because ADHD pattern recognition is incredibly fast, which means when you're trying to explain it, you've skipped steps because your brain has already jumped ahead. Write it down first, not because you need to prove it to yourself or anyone else, but because you write it down so you can connect the dots for other people. You can trace the logic, and when you communicate it, you can bring it to people instead of leaving them kind of behind or it being perceived as just an issue. A voice memo, a note in your phone, 30 seconds of writing it out before you say it out loud. Okay, this is not about slowing you down. It's about giving you insight to make it land better for other people. And the third thing I want you to do is to stop apologizing for being early. Okay, being right before everyone else is ready is not a character flaw for you. It is not pessimism. It is not anxiety. It is not negativity. It is what it looks like when you have a high processing ADHD brain that operates at full capacity in a world that just moves slower than you. The cost of that is real, okay? The isolation, the exhaustion of watching things unfold that you saw coming and no one believed you, it's hard, okay? But the answer is to find rooms where you are valued and where your read on the room is valued. And so stop letting the people who couldn't keep up with you define what your brain is capable of. you were right. You just got it faster than everyone else. Okay. So again, I talk about this a lot in Flow First Thinking. If you have not already plugged into my book, I'm going to drop that in the show notes for you. It's actually on Audible now as well, which is something a lot of people ask for. I know ADHD brains don't tend to finish books. That's actually like a whole statistic. But if this episode hit you somewhere specific, if you heard yourself in any of these moments, I just want you to know that, this is what we talk about, and it's the foundation of everything I have created this podcast on. Pattern recognition, decision-making, time blindness, the way our brains process information faster and deeper than most people realize is so crucial for you to understand, and how to stop apologizing for it and start building with it. So again, the link is in the show notes for Flow First Thinking. And if you're at any point where you need more than that book, if you're ready to actually build the business or build systems for your professional life that work with the way your brain operates, that's the work that I do. So you can go to sociallyawesome.com, find ways to work with me, shoot me a DM on IG at socially.awesome. I'd love to talk with you, but I don't build cookie cutter systems, okay? I don't build neurotypical frameworks with an ADHD label slapped on them. Everything is custom built for the brain that you have and the way that you work. And before you go, if this episode helped you at any way, even if it just helped you feel seen, please take a screenshot of you listening to this, throw it in your stories, and tag me at socially.awesome on IG. Leave it a review. It is the best compliment you can give. It helps more ADHD entrepreneurs find this podcast. And until next time, make it simple, make it social, and make it awesome.